We're back on the air. Last week's show was nice. I thought it was nice. But thanks to Vlad and Robert, they're back on the air, back with us for a second time together. How you guys doing?
Good. Kind of tired.
I'm doing well. Yep.
Oh, wait, hold on. Wait up. Vlad, you go first. How are you doing?
Oh. I'm well. I'm surprised they keep allowing us to record. The show hasn't been canceled yet.
Yeah, I know, huh?
Oh,
you'd think YouTube would have thrown us off the air, but nope, not yet. Let me see. Robert, how about you?
We're
How you
still
doing?
here.
I'm good, just tired. My temporarily new schedule is kind of killing me, but I'm alright.
All right. Well, look, hold on a second. I was going to ask you guys a question. Let me try to share my screen. You guys know what this word means? You ever heard of this?
No.
Malapert?
Malapert? Malapert.
Yeah.
No.
You never heard of this?
No.
So, I know there's a lot of words in English that we have fucking no idea what they mean, huh? But so this word means boldly disrespectful to a person of higher standing, or an impudent person, right? So I brought this up because I wanted to point out the obvious that we're being smart marks here on this show, right? Smarks, as they say in the wrestling business, and so we're not looking at this like it's a real sport, right? We're looking at it from the point of view like we think we know the ins and outs of this business and the backstage and the politics and all that, but really, what the fuck do we know? We've never been in the wrestling business. Who the hell are we to talk, right? So this is why I would consider us Malapert Smarks. So
I've never been called that, but okay.
We're Malapert Smarks. We're gonna go ahead and analyze this and possibly criticize these shows for these people are making who've done all this work to get content on the air. They've been doing it for years. They've gone through training and stuff. You know, it's not easy. I can say from experience producing a show, this stupid podcast, it's freaking hard producing content. And yet, we will be boldly analyzing these shows and acting like we know what's best for the wrestling business, right? Anyways, I'm bringing this up to you guys because I'm rebranding the show. I'm changing the name. We're going to be called the Malapert Smark Wrestling Podcast, presented by Quantum FLux Podcast Network. We're Malapert Smarks. Think of it like Malachi Black. If you can't remember the word, it's a hard word to remember, but that's our new name for the show. Anyways,
Whatever you want to call it, Kehan. Whatever you want to call it. That's fine.
I'm the artist formerly known as Prince, but okay.
This is the podcast formerly known as Quantum FLux. Now we're the Malapert Smarks. Okay. All right, let's move into our first topic. You guys want to talk about CM Punk or what? Because we don't got much to talk about this week. This episode of Dynamite was like, wow, right? I don't know. We'll talk about it later, but we need some ratings, so we're going to talk about CM Punk. So let me introduce our topic. CM Punk has been making the rounds in wrestling news circuit because he visited Raw and Impact backstage, right? I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but he's still on suspension from AEW, which also coincided with an injury from his last match with Jon Moxley at All Out. So we can speculate as to why he's been trying to get in the news, but I'm going to put out a question for you guys. I'll go with Vlad first on this one. Number one, do you miss CM Punk in wrestling? And number two, do you think wrestling needs CM Punk?
I mean, do I personally miss him? Yes, because I think he was good for AEW. He was one of the few bright spots when he was there. His stuff was when I think of wrestling and what I like about wrestling, he had a lot of those shared attributes that I do enjoy. Realistic matches make sense, angles, stories that kind of have a flow to it and are just not randomness. No stupidity in the matches, no ridiculous high spots for no reason, no crazy blading unless it served a purpose. So all those things he was into. And what was the second part of the question? Does wrestling need him? Yeah,
Does wrestling need CM
AEW
Punk?
needs him more than well, I think AEW needs him. I don't think WWE is just a machine at this point. They don't need anything. They don't. I don't think it matters. But AEW needs him. They need him because look at it. It's funny that Danielson is screaming amateur in an angle, but all these guys are, for the most part, they're amateurs. Let's just be honest. So CM Punk is was one of the few grown-ups in the room. So yes, they need him. They need him very badly, and he increases ratings, and he actually makes people buy pay-per-views. So yes, AEW needs him. WWE doesn't really need much of anything these days. And Impact, who cares about Impact? That's just that company has been on. I don't even know how they're still going. To be honest, I don't know what keeps them going. I guess they're kind of going, but they're still on the air somewhere.
Well, all right.
So yes.
Let's go to Robert. Robert, do you miss CM Punk?
Yeah. I don't miss him as much as I did before his initial arrival to AEW, but I do. I think that when he was still in AEW, his segments, or the only other segments outside of MJS that I thought were consistently great. So I would love to see him back. Does wrestling need him? I don't know if they need him, but I definitely want him back. That's hard to answer.
You think AEW is fine without him?
AEW needs him.
Right? Yeah, I guess I would agree. I would agree that AEW definitely needs him more than WWE does. They seem like they're doing just fine. AEW, they got MJF, who's for sure gonna mostly be a slam dunk. We'll talk about today, but yeah, I think they need some firepower, man. They need some star power, personally. And do I miss CM Punk? Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I think this whole thing. Okay, well, let's jump to this another question I have here, because I'm curious to see what you guys think of this, or what Robert or what Vlad thinks. But the CM Punk, the press conference at All Out, and what he did at the press conference, which was pretty bad, I guess, in terms of professionalism. But does that merit him being blackballed from the company? What would you guys say? I'll start with Robert. You go first.
No, I don't think so, because I think a lot of wrestlers in the past have gotten away with worse and not be blackballed. So from that perspective, no. Yeah, I would say no to that.
That's an interesting perspective. All right, I thought you might say yes because of your professionalism. Like, imagine if somebody at your job.
I do agree that it's okay. I guess, but I do agree that it wasn't professional. But I think a lot of wrestlers in the past in the business have gotten away with a lot worse.
Okay, so since it's the wrestling business, you're giving them a pass, right, Vlad? Is that what's going on here?
I think so. Let's look at stuff that Shawn Michaels has done, or anybody else. But yeah, this was public. First of all those little pressers they do after the pay-per-views are dumb anyways. What is the point of them? Anyways. But that's neither here nor there. I think, should he be blackballed? He's not really. He's being blackballed from AEW because he got in a fight with the EVPs of the company. So, and deservedly so. They deserve to be punched. They are holding the company down and hostage with their because they still think that this is some small-time company and not a company that's trying to do business. They think that that this is the indies, and no, this is we're talking about big money and big stakes, and they don't know anything about that. So that's why they're holding the company down. They don't like CM Punk because he actually draws ratings and money, and they don't know anything about that. so that's why they got into a fight with him, and that's all there is to it. I mean, they were pissed off because he actually is a pro wrestler, and they are not. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. Yes, he shouldn't be blackballed, and he wouldn't be blackballed and he would, in any other place but AEW, because, I mean, look who's running the place. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that is why this started. It started because he originally had a problem. It blew up in his head. He couldn't take it anymore. He had to say what everyone was thinking about the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and everything, right? And, you know, Robert, as we saw last week, gave them high praise for starting the company, and yet since then have received a crap load of criticism. And that's what this whole thing is all about. It's all about the fight they had because CM Punk couldn't stand the Young Bucks and how they run the company. And, you know, he wants it to get better. Like what Danielson was saying in the promo today. They want wrestling to get better. And the Young Bucks are kind of, in CM Punk's point of view, holding it back. It exploded in that press conference, and it turned into like a physical fight. But CM Punk was he's the one who started it, right? That's why the Young Bucks, their suspension got lifted pretty quick. They just retaliated to something that Punk started, I guess. So they're in the clear. They're back on the show, right? We still yet to see if Punk is back on the show.
How did he start it when they came into his dressing room and tried to mess with him? I don't understand how that's how he started it. But I mean, if he came to them and was like, "Oh, let's go, let's throw down" or something like that, okay, I'd say
he started it because he instigated it verbally at the press conference. Of course, they're gonna come say something right afterwards. What, Robert? Whose fault was it? Was it Punk's fault or was it the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega's fault?
All of them, really. But CM Punk, I do think CM Punk started it. He didn't have to make that all public in the media scrum, as they call it. He could have found a more private way to handle it, you know, without like all the media attention. But I think all of them are at fault.
Sure, I agree with that.
Well, they're the EVPs. They're supposed to be the more professional ones, and
come on,
so is CM Punk. He's a big professional too.
CM Punk professional. Oh my God. Well, maybe he did try to talk to them in private, and they just wouldn't listen. Maybe that's why he went public with it. We don't know. I mean, I assume he would have tried.
How do we know he didn't complain to Tony Khan consistently about this for months? I mean, we don't really know the ins and outs. So I could assume that he probably did, and then nothing was being done about it because it's Tony Khan, you know, who's afraid of his own shadow. So, you know, I don't think anything was being done about it. So he probably said, okay, I'll stick up for myself. I'll publicly say what I feel needs to be said about these guys because enough is enough, you know. Especially after the Adam Page stuff and the whole whatever disastrous thing that was on live TV that nobody could make sense of.
Yeah, Robert, exactly. CM Punk has never been known to be professional. He called out Adam Page off, you know, he went off script, called out Adam Page. In WWE, he was known to start fights with management and complain nonstop, and in the end he left because he didn't want to go along with creative. So CM Punk is not really professional. He's difficult to deal with. That's why some people are, even some of the marks are saying it's better off if we don't have him. Like, yeah, we might miss him, but forget it. We could just go on without him and do a consistent show. Because if CM Punk is there, maybe one day he'll just be like, nah, I don't like this story. I'm screw this. I'm leaving.
I mean, it's still a business at the end of the day, and he draws, so.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'll agree with both of you guys on, that he does draw, and they need him back. They're going to have this big Wembley show. If they don't have CM Punk, I don't know what the heck is going to be on this show that's going to draw 50,000 people. But, all right, I'm going to wrap up the CM Punk segment. It remains to be seen if Tony Khan will allow CM Punk back into the fold, or if he will continue to simply wash his hands of this whole debacle and refuse to acknowledge any responsibility. Speaking of washing your hands of any responsibility, this segment has been brought to you by Purell. These guys are hurting for business. Ever since the pandemic finished, there are just mountains of this stuff lying around on store shelves all over the world. But look, just because there isn't a deadly virus floating around anymore doesn't mean you shouldn't be a slob. Excuse me, doesn't mean you should be a slob. Try to keep your hands clean, man. Keep some Purell around. Alright, we'll be right back after this. Alright, let's get back to it. We're talking about CM Punk in our last segment, so I think that's a good transition leading to our next topic. Because by all accounts of the rumors and innuendo, as they say, Punk should be coming back because executives at Warner Brothers Discovery want him to be the centerpiece of supposedly a new AEW show on Saturdays called Collision. So I got to show you guys a graphic. Listen, let me share this off the screen. I showed this to Vlad a few days ago. Robert, look at this. This is all the major wrestling shows from last week. I added up all the hours of there was no elevation. It was a best of. So luckily we didn't have to watch this, but we had 2 hours of Raw, NXT, Dynamite, New Japan, ROH, all this stuff. It totaled 23 hours and 45 minutes in 1 week. And here's the breakdown. Each one. WWE was 5 hours and a half. New Japan 10 hours and a half. They air a lot of New Japan over there. I tried keeping up with some of this, but eventually it just was impossible. I have a job and everything. But my question to you both is, now that they're adding a new show for AEW, how the hell are we supposed to keep up with all this wrestling? Vlad, you go first.
well, first of all, I'm never going to watch more than half of the stuff that you listed there. That's for one thing. Never in a million years. Those New Japan shows you said were 4 hours each or something, and I'm never going to watch even a second of it. So that's one way. That's one way I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to watch the main stuff in America. I'm going to watch the two main companies, and I'm going to forward through the stuff I don't like, and hopefully that will make things go by quicker, faster, and as painless as possible. Because let's be honest, some of these shows on both sides, WWE and AEW, are painful. So you kind of have to pick your battles and pick what you actually want to watch. Because for with 3 hours of Raw and 2 hours of SmackDown, I'm not going to even mention NXT because I don't watch that. 2 hours of AEW. I mean, I don't think anybody watches Rampage. I mean, that's another hour. And then, I don't know, I'm guessing this is going to be another 2 hour Saturday show. I mean, it can be done. It's just, might as well just cut the cord on Rampage, though, because that's a useless show. Nobody cares about Rampage. So might as well just forget about Rampage. Throw it in the garbage where it belongs.
So you're a forwarder, huh? Before we get to Robert, you forward through wrestling. Let's get this straight. You for certain parts, like matches, some matches. You want? Okay.
Oh my God, yes. Are you kidding me? Otherwise, you'd lose your mind. I would lose my mind if I didn't. I'm sorry. There's no way I could watch a 3 hour Raw without forwarding at least some of it. And the same thing goes for AEW as well. I mean, I can't. There's no way I'd lose. I'd have to take I'd probably have to start smoking or something. I don't know.
All right, we'll get back to you. Listen, Robert, I've talked to you in the past. I've known that there have been times where you fell behind in AEW. You just weren't watching for a little while. There are times in your life you kind of don't watch wrestling even. I mean, there's been times in our lives where we don't really watch wrestling. We've given up on it, or years. For certain years, or you spent some time catching up. Explain to us how you watch your wrestling these days.
Okay, so I do watch, well, not majority of Monday Night Raws, but maybe a little more than half of them. I didn't watch this the past 2 weeks, though, so I have no idea what's been happening on Raw. AEW, I watch most of them. I guess I'm more consistent on watching Dynamite than I am in watching Raw. Rampage, I almost never watch. SmackDown, I sometimes watch. I actually do enjoy SmackDown more than Raw. I'm not sure why, but I think it's like a little bit better than Raw, but I just don't happen to watch it a lot because it's a Friday night, and I'd rather like do something else on a Friday night. So yeah, but to answer your question about like how are we gonna keep up with all this wrestling? Well, let's just stick with AEW first, right? Like I don't even watch Rampage, so they're adding a third show, which is kind of nuts, right? But the only thing about this new show Collision that kind of intrigues me is that CM Punk is supposed to be like the focus of that show. So because of that, I might actually like pay attention and watch some of the episodes, only because he's gonna be on it allegedly. Um, but otherwise, if he wasn't, I'd probably not follow that either.
Do you? Because I remember we were talking about Forbidden Door last year, and you loved a lot of the matches. So you seem to watch the matches, right? You don't skip the matches. Is some people skip the matches and only watch the angles.
Wait. So that show was a pay-per-view.
Yes.
I mean, if we're talking about like an episode of Dynamite, Raw, SmackDown, I I don't forward like you guys do, but that I'm not necessarily paying like giving it my full attention either.
Ah, okay, that's interesting.
Like
Yeah, that's
halfway
a good
paying
way to do
attention,
it too.
unless it's a segment that I'm actually looking forward to, then yeah, then I'll it'll have my full attention.
So you just
But yeah, I don't.
you just leave it on
Yeah,
and do other things,
I
kind
I
of.
leave it on, just in case something cool actually happens. I
Yeah,
might catch
that's a
it.
good
But
strategy. That's a good. So you're not like Vlad, just on the forward button, just hitting it, hitting it, hitting.
I don't. But there have been times where I strongly considered it
Okay,
for
well,
sure.
I'll be honest. There's times where I'll just completely skip a match and I'll look for the pinfall and then I'll rewind a little bit to see how it led up to that pinfall, and I'm I do that quite a bit because it's just a lot of shows, man. I have a full-time job. I can't sit and watch every freaking show like Dave Meltzer. Even forwarding the show takes a good while because you still got to listen to the promos, you got to follow the storylines and stuff. So yeah, I can't sit and watch all these matches. I would love to. I would love to. If I had the time, I would love to. But
I'd lose my mind.
I like it. I'm a fan of the art of wrestling. I like watching like AEW Dark sometimes, and I like to see, how good one of these new wrestlers are. If there's someone that I've never heard of, I'm like, all right, let's see how he works. Can he make it? Can he sell? Does he sell, or does he forget selling sometimes, or does the match make sense? Yeah, I like to analyze the matches. If I could, I would watch every match. I would love to be like an analyst of wrestling, but it's not my job. And I have a job like I have to show up for and I have to be rested for, so I can't stay up all night watching wrestling. But yeah, I mean, I even tried to get into New Japan this week just as an experiment, but it was just, see, these guys air everything they do. It's like they just air everything. They'll do a house show like every single day, and I guess some of their matches some of the time mean something, but a lot of it is just whatever. It's like 4-on-4 matches, 3-on-3 matches. In case you were wondering, Vlad, there's a lot of AEW type 4-on-4 matches and stuff, and I guess this is how they make their ranking systems. I don't really know. I'm still getting into it, but yeah. All right. Well, I don't know if you have anything else to add to this, Vlad, about the excessive amount of wrestling, and we're trying to do a wrestling podcast and be experts on all this, but we're admittedly not watching everything.
Do you have to? I mean, I have a pretty good idea of what wrestling is and what it should be. I don't need to watch every single wrestling show to say that I'm a student of wrestling or enjoy the art of wrestling or enjoy certain elements of wrestling. I don't think I have to watch every show that's every company that's currently active. I mean, why don't you watch? You didn't even include the AAA shows? You might as well have included them as well.
Oh
If you're just
yeah, I
gonna,
forgot. I don't even know where that airs, to be honest. I
I don't know where I couldn't tell you where that airs because I'm never gonna watch a second of that either. But whatever. That's just no. I don't think you have to watch every single show to talk about wrestling.
All right. Well, listen.
Agreed.
If you think Tony Khan is expanding too many shows too quickly, I have some news for you guys here. I am also adding a new show to our podcast network. This will be completely separate from our Malapert Smark Podcast. This is the Monster Mark Wrestling Podcast. So, I know Vlad, he didn't like the idea of shooting a Mark Wrestling show where we don't break kayfabe. But me and Robert, we might give it a try. He says he says he'll give it a try. We're gonna.
Good luck to you guys. May the force be with you.
Oh,
I need a lot of that force.
You're gonna need it because you guys are gonna be some monster marks.
This is our mascot, Monster Mark, and if you break kayfabe, he's gonna throw you off the show. Okay, so. So this is coming soon to Quantum FLux Podcast Network's The Monster Mark Wrestling Podcast. All right, guys.
I'll watch it. I won't be in it, but I'll watch it. I can't wait. I'll have popcorn and everything. It's gonna be like watching John Wick. I'm gonna be just like, what is going on here?
Well, it's gonna be difficult, honestly. Robert thinks he's gonna like burst out laughing as soon as he tries to analyze this like it's real.
Absolutely.
Think how hard it must be
happen.
for these guys cutting promos, like Booker T, like the way he used to. Like, how does he not? These were talented actors, right? Incredible to go out there and like sell this and act like they think it's real and not break and not even smirk, not even laugh at all. It's kind of difficult, yeah, but you know.
Well, when Booker T was doing the King Booker thing, I think that was the hardest thing not to laugh at that for sure. That was tough.
All right, well, listen, we got a few minutes left here. Let's try to keep this under 7 minutes for total this segment. Sure. But last topic before we go to AEW Dynamite, we're gonna dive into some WWE because it hasn't been represented much here on this show since we covered WrestleMania. But because they're not usually as freewheeling and as AEW is, and that's why we don't really review it in detail. But some would say they're more professional than AEW. The storylines are cohesive, I guess, very slow progressing. Anyways, the Bloodline story was all the rage heading into WrestleMania. But I got a text from Vlad today saying that WWE has sucked since WrestleMania. So. Yeah, Vlad, you brought it up, so why don't you go ahead? You have the floor. Has WWE sucked since WrestleMania?
I think it has. It's been pretty bad. These shows are hard to get through. They're getting harder and harder. I mean, there's no there's no where you can turn to watch good wrestling nowadays. It's such a shame because you turn to AEW and you don't even know what the heck you're going to see there. And then WWE, I don't even know what they're doing, man. They just put you to sleep, and they're running the same people every time with, the Usos and Owens and Sami, and it's the same thing over and over.
Yeah, Viking Raiders versus the Alpha Academy and all that, and Ricochet and Braun Strowman.
Sure. I mean, it's the same people every week. There's nothing new happening on these shows.
The brand split. Are you're?
Oh my God! The draft things were so bad. The shows were so boring. Nobody understands what the heck is going on in these drafts. Who's drafting? What's happening? When there were two GMs, at least it kind of made some sense. But now it's just like random people coming in to make the picks. It was so dumb. So bad.
Robert, is there anything that's popped out to you since WrestleMania that you could think of off the top of your head that you've liked?
That I liked?
Yeah. Or are you with Vlad? Has it just been all bad?
Okay, so right off the bat, after was it the Raw after WrestleMania? I saw the leaks that Vince McMahon was officially back, and that right there, just that news alone killed it for me because I thought WWE was had good momentum under Triple H, so just that news alone was like heartbreaking. And then I don't know, the stuff that I did actually watch.
How about I'll throw one out there. Cody feuding with Lesnar. Come on, that's a pretty marquee.
I was gonna say I was gonna say two things. I was gonna say that one, and I was gonna say I think Priest and Bad Bunny actually is not bad.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. You stole the words right out of my mouth.
So
that has
those
been my
two things have
favorite
been
thing.
good. Those two things have been good, and and they're pretty much gonna main event the pay-per-view that's coming on, I think this weekend actually, right? It's coming up Saturday,
Backlash,
right?
yeah.
Saturday?
It's this Saturday? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, listen, I have a quick question for Robert, because you talked about it, Vlad. You talked about the brand split. Robert, this brand split, come on. Can you buy this at all? I mean, we touched on it a little bit for the World Heavyweight title last week, but we didn't really talk about the fact that they're going to completely separate the rosters. Something that we've seen, and they always end up coming back together again.
It's been done before, and they just didn't, stick with the idea. You see the wrestlers from the other from Raw going to SmackDown and vice versa. So what was the whole point of this?
Yeah,
I don't know.
that it just seems like it's going to be a wave forever. They're going to split it, and then they're going to come back to the point where they want to reunify the titles and have the one true champion, and then split it again, and then do it all over again. I guess this is going to be the pattern from now on. But it's so hard for the wrestlers to sell this, because obviously we all want to know who's the ultimate best. And then now suddenly, okay, we're all just going to split up again, and we're all going to be cool with that and having two separate titles everywhere. So I think that has been a major detriment to the storyline since WrestleMania, heading into Backlash, and supposedly after Backlash they're going to completely split apart again. But I will give a kudos to Bad Bunny, which I'm glad that you actually see that was kind of funny, because if you actually listen to his music or know who he is, you'd know how ridiculously hilarious. When he showed up with the what did he have, like a cane or something, or a kendo stick?
He had a kendo stick.
Yeah, and he was ready to get down with Damian Priest. Oh well, I like that scene when he socked Dominic. He threw a good punch, very good punch. That was a well worked.
I think it was a stiff shot.
And then he
give him a little potato.
And then he took the choke slam through the table.
Yeah, he took it pretty good.
So
it's been good. It's been a fun little mini feud post WrestleMania. Those are the only two things that really stick out, for sure.
Well, okay, so it hasn't sucked that bad. There's been something. You just said I'm like,
okay, but
I texted you in the morning. I'm like, you got any topics? You're like, how about how much WWE has sucked since WrestleMania? I'm like, okay.
Well, it has sucked as a whole. But yes, if you're asking me, has there been anything that's been good at all? Yes, those two things have been okay. I'm not saying they're like the end of the world great. We're not talking about I don't know, like NWO good or something like that. But it's been quality. It's been okay. Those two things. But we're talking about 5-hour shows if you combine their two main shows. So I mean, so no, overall they've been really bad.
Well, Robert, come on, give me one word. Sucked. Yes. Is it suck? Yes or no?
Oh, overall?
Overall.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, I gotta go to commercial. We're out of time for this segment. Let's move along. Speaking of sucking, this segment has been brought to you by Blow Pops. You can suck all day, you'll never finish it. I don't think I've ever finished a Blow Pop, But if you want to suck all day like you could go down to the store and buy yourself, fill your closet full of Blow Pops. You could suck for years, just like WWE.
Oh my god. I don't even know what to say to that.
All right, we'll be back with our review of AEW Dynamite right after these messages.
Oh, wow.
All right, guys, we're back on the air. We were off the air for a second, and Vlad and Robert were talking about, basically, I don't think they like this episode, right? I mean, is that what's going on here?
I don't know what Robert thought. I don't know what Robert thought, but yeah.
I mean, it wasn't all bad, but overall, it was meh.
Okay, we'll get to our grades and our overall reviews at the end of the show. But let's go through it. If there's anything that you guys want to pop in and say anything, or I'll have certain things certain parts where I'll have questions for you. So let's go ahead and dive into it. This is AEW Dynamite from May 2nd, 2023. So I think you guys already know that I popped as soon as the show started, right? As Orange Cassidy's music hits, and he comes out with his new best friend Bandido, my new favorite duo. And I was a little disappointed to find out that this wasn't an international title defense, but a 4-on-4 tag against the Jericho Appreciation Society, and Jericho's coming out on commentary. Now you might remember from last week, because I know you guys saw the show, Orange Cassidy and Bandido were kicking it in the back, and they couldn't stand to see Adam Cole getting the crap kicked out of him and by the JAS, so they jumped in to help before Roderick Strong showed up, and they all cleaned house. And anyways, not much to see here, I guess. Baby faces win. Orange Cassidy, Bandido, Adam Cole, and Roderick Strong beat JAS. And but before we get to the Afterbirth, I do want to mention that our review last week of Orange Cassidy versus Bandido was our highest viewed video. Over 100 views. Highest viewed video on this channel so far. And my highest viewed video ever, really. I've had several YouTube channels. I've never gotten 100 views on anything. So this is a milestone. Got more views than our World Heavyweight title discussion, our Bullet Club discussion. So there is no denying now that Orange Cassidy is a needle mover. So, Vlad, I got 1 minute on the clock for you here. Vlad, do you not deny that Orange Cassidy is a needle mover? 1 minute on the clock.
He's a needle mover? No, I deny that he's a needle mover. He's a pest that has been. It's like gum stuck to your shoe that you can't get rid of. It's the worst. It's like I don't even know what. My heart sank when his music played to open the show again. I mean, this is like at least the fifth time in the past 6-7 weeks that he's opened the show in one form or another. It's terrible. It's terrible. I hate the gimmick. I'm over it. It was funny in the beginning. It gets old. Can we move on from Orange Cassidy? It doesn't make any sense. It's fine if you want to have him as like a joke gimmick, but enough already. Enough of pushing him as a champion of some sort. It's ridiculous. So, no, he's not a needle mover unless you mean that he makes my brain hurt and that moves some sort of needle to you because my brain is hurting.
All right, listen, Robert hasn't been on for any of our Dynamite reviews, so I want to get some Robert thoughts on Orange Cassidy. You like him, you don't like him. Is the joke played out, as Vlad says? 1 minute on the clock for you.
I thought you were going to ask me if he's a needle mover.
Yeah, is he a needle mover? Come on, he gets ratings.
To some extent, he has to be because they almost always start off the show with him to get the crowd reaction. And look at your views for that video with him and Bandido.
Right.
It moved the needle. It moved the needle for your.
I'm telling you, I didn't think it was before, but shit.
So to some extent, he is. He's not the biggest draw, but he is. He is a needle mover to some extent.
What about the joke? Do you like the joke?
That doesn't mean I like him. I'm not necessarily a fan of him, but I'm not going to deny that he's moving the needle.
So you don't like him?
Not really. Oh, I liked him at the very beginning, but I think the joke got old for me pretty quickly.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, Tony Khan obviously is putting him on because there's a reason. He gets ratings. Even he gets me ratings, and I'll put him on as long as he gets me ratings. Anyways, let's move on with our Dynamite review. It's getting late. So Afterbirth, Adam Cole immediately runs up to the commentator's booth and attacks Chris Jericho after all they've been through in the past couple weeks, I was going to say you'd think Jericho would have been more prepared for Adam Cole to come attack him after everything he's done to his girlfriend. And that t-shirt they put out with the black eye, which was kind of in bad taste. In bad taste from AEW, too. Kind of weird, but okay. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about that. But anyways, he laid into him pretty good. So he got some heavy shots in, and then security separated them. So that was that. but it's not done yet. Actually, you know what? Before I get some thoughts on Chris Jericho, let me jump to a backstage segment they had, and Darby Allin and Jungle Boy, they got interviewed and they said they're going to put their differences aside for this main event tonight and try to get their title shot at the pay-per-view. And then they cut back to the back of the arena where the security is removing Adam Cole from the building. Jericho's holding his head, selling the attack, pleading with security to get him out. I don't know if you guys remember this. And then Britt Baker comes in, calls Jericho bitch Jericho, slaps him, rips his shirt off, and Jericho falls down in a heap crying, begging to be protected from Adam Cole. Any thoughts on Chris Jericho's acting here or anything that went on with these guys?
Oh my God!
Britt Baker just made the list.
All right, Robert.
Oh,
you're saying that he's gonna get her back now for this because she humiliated him.
that's right.
What about the acting? The acting from Jericho, since we're smart marks here and we're analyzing their performance. Come on. Any thoughts on Jericho's acting here? Did it jump out as bad, or you guys thought this was fine?
I don't know, for a little over the top, but I think for him that's like part for the course. That's usually how he acts anyway. So,
Okay, I'll just say this. It looked okay when she slapped him and he took a bump. It was ridiculous. Okay?
yeah, that was.
Okay, that was absurd. He felt like he had just been rocked by something, like a Mike Tyson punch.
Like he got hit by the orange punch.
Yes.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, I thought it was. I mean, he's always been an over actor, and he was just ridiculous. And why is security kicking Adam Cole out? What sense did that make? People are getting unopened with screwdrivers on this show, and nobody gets kicked out. But whatever.
all right.
Okay, kick him out. Kick everybody out. Can I be kicked out? I want to go.
It's true. Sometimes they'll let someone just murder someone, and sometimes all the security pours in. That is inconsistent in wrestling in general, not just in AEW. But anyways, let's move on with the show. So they cut to the stairwell, which is one of their favorite scenes places to shoot scenes, I guess.
Yeah, that and the trash can.
And the Blackpool Combat Club are hanging out in the stairwell. They had some audio troubles, just like us. I don't know if you guys noticed that for the first 10 seconds.
I surely did.
We couldn't
hear anything they were saying.
Couldn't hear what Danielson was saying. So it's not just my show, I guess. What did he say? What did Danielson? Oh, he cut a very weird promo here on Bret Hart. Remember? Called Bret Hart arrogant for saying he's the best there is, best there was, best there will be, and to think there will never be anybody better. He said that's arrogant. He said he's better than Bret. He said he's better than anyone who came before him. And if it's not him, then it's one of the other guys in the Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah, it's Wheeler Yuta. Yeah.
But
yeah, he's just better than Bret Hart.
But he says he does hope that there will be better than him in the future. Even Wheeler Yuta, the little shit, as he calls him. And he says that he says this is the main difference between them and the elite. That basically they want to push others to get better, and they want to push this company to be the best in the world, and all that. And this is supposed to be like an offshoot of like it's kind of a shoot, right? That the Young Bucks are jokes, I guess, and they're not pushing other guys on the show to actually get better and make the company better. So I don't know what you guys thought of this Bryan Danielson promo. Anything odd about this, or did you think it was fine?
I mean, I honestly didn't hear a lot of it. That was like you said when the audio went kind of, and then like I did hear him say something about Bret Hart, but then I also had some technical difficulties at the same time as well. So I didn't really gain anything from it. So I don't have an opinion one way or another. I did hear him say something about he's better than Bret Hart, and I was like, what the hell? What does Bret Hart have to do with any of this? But anyways, yeah, I don't have an opinion.
Robert, anything on this segment with
Yeah, so for starters, whoever's in charge of the audio, I have one word to describe them. Amateurs. Amateurs. Nothing but a bunch of amateurs.
Right.
But regarding his promo, he did surprise me when he said, I hope someone in the future ends up becoming better than me. Like I didn't expect to hear that from him. Like, wow, okay. I was hoping he would call the elite amateurs. I actually like it when he calls his opponents that, because he says it with so much conviction that like it sounds like he really believes it. Maybe he does, but that's why I like it when he actually does that, because he says it with conviction. But he didn't actually say it in the promo. He did compare himself to Bret Hart, which I like him better than Bret Hart, so sure, why not?
What?
But I do.
I mean, Danielson is great.
Moxley,
He's great.
Moxley did a promo after that regarding the Kenny Omega match.
Yes, yes.
Saying, I don't know if you.
Yes. He says that. I'll go through that. He said that that the Blackpool Combat Club are blades looking for iron to sharp. So that he's shooting off what Danielson was talking about, that he wants to help push people to get better, right? And he says there was a time when the elite were innovators in wrestling, but that time is no more. Talks about next week's cage match with Omega. He says he's improved since their last match in 2019, and that he's going to leave a mark on them. So, yeah, they're going to have a match. Omega actually responds to this later, so we can talk about the Omega-Moxley match in a little while. That's going to be an interesting matchup, but let's move on. I'll do this next segment, and then we'll take a little break, one last break. So the next match is Saraya versus Willow. Saraya with Tony Storm and Ruby. So none of the AEW originals came to bother to come out and help Willow. They just let her be on her own, which was kind of a plot hole to me. But anyway, Saraya had to use a lot of interference against Willow, which doesn't make her look great in my opinion, but she does get the win. And there was a very interesting afterbirth here. I don't know if you guys saw this part. So this part was very interesting. This may be the most interesting on the show. So the Outcasts are lining up to spray paint the big L for loser on Willow, and out comes Shida, one of the AEW originals, to presumably help Willow, but instead she appears to join the Outcasts. I was like, what the heck? Okay, but of course it was all a ruse, and Britt and Jamie are waiting in the wings to take out the Outcasts, and Shida joins in on the beatdown. They kendo stick them, and they spray paint Saraya in the face. They leave them all laying, spray painted and humiliated, just like Chris Jericho earlier. So we have to have a discussion about this, because the question I have is, what do you guys think of the heat that they pulled from these two angles, and how much heat they pulled? If you guys can comment on that. Vlad, you go first. What do you think of all this? They pulled some heat out of this. Was it enough? Could they have pulled more heat?
Well, you know what? I'll say I don't know about the heat, how much heat this angle has, but I will say I did kind of like this thing with Cheetah. I was kind of thrown for a loop a little bit. I was like, wait, what? She's joining them? I'm like, so I started actually watching. So I was like, wait, let me see what happens here. Why is she joining them? That makes no sense. And then I'm like, oh, it's one of those like double swerve thingies. Okay, so she's actually obviously not joining the Misfits. She's with Britt and Jamie Hayter. Okay, that makes more sense. Because otherwise, I was like, wait, she isn't an AEW original. So what sense would that make if she joined this Misfit group that's like corporate WWE?
Yeah, that was confusing for a minute. I will admit, I was like, what the heck is going on here? But okay, yeah, I was kind of with it for a while, but then it didn't last that long. Anyways.
Yeah, I was like, well, you know what? Sheeta, okay, put her somewhere. Put her in a group, I guess. She hasn't been doing anything, might as well.
Robert.
Like, oh, no, okay.
Robert, did these guys get enough heat out of this before they already got their comeuppance? I mean, come on, they've already got the revenge. And what more can they possibly do to these people? Like, Yeah, you got anything to say
I
about
don't
this?
think they. I don't know. For me, I don't think they gained any more heat than they already had before that segment. Personally, and yeah, I was also confused by that double swerve. Like that's kind of random. And another thing that I thought in my mind when Britt and Jamie came out to the ring, I was like, Britt Baker, she's all over the place. Not too long ago, she was out in the back smacking Chris Jericho. Now she's all the way back in the ring um, assisting Willow. I'm like, how does she get all over the place? And no, nobody from JAS like attacked her after she attacked Chris Jericho. Like I thought that was kind of nonsensical. But
All right.
yeah.
Well, let me just mention, because maybe I didn't word the question very well. I didn't want to lead you guys with what I think, because that's my point here, though, as wrestling smarks and aficionados. What the point I'm trying to convey is, Saraya and Jericho, they got all this heat for attacking Britt Baker, right? And doing something evil like this, you're supposed to kind of milk it for a while before they get their revenge, right? That's the point. The revenge is supposed to be like at the pay-per-view or a month down the line. So what I meant by the question, what do you think of the heat that AEW pulled from these two angles? What I was trying to get at is that I don't think they got enough heat out of this. I think that they could have kept rolling with it a little while, kind of milk it, make them fight a little bit to get the revenge, and instead both guys just got humiliated today, Jericho and Saraya and the Outcasts. So basically, like, it's over. You know, they don't really need to continue this. This is not how the NWO angle went. The NWO didn't, like, spray paint somebody one day, and then the next day they got humiliated and their face flushed down the toilet. You know? We had to wait for, like, months before somebody would get some revenge on them. Or Mr. McMahon, you know? It would take a while. These things had to, like, simmer. So that's what I meant by did they pull enough heat out of these angles? They kendo sticked Britt Baker, in front of her boyfriend. And now it's over. They've already got all their revenge. So this to me it didn't end up well. I give this angle a negative. I think they should have waited a little while longer. Let it simmer a little bit and see if later on people will really actually dig it more if they got their revenge, like at the pay-per-view or something like that. I don't know if you guys...
Did you think that this was actually going to be a successful angle for the company? The women's division is a mess as a whole, so did you really think this was going to be... If you have low expectations, you don't, like I do when I watch the show, you don't think like, boy, they didn't, why did they do this? They just lost all their heat. No, that ship has sailed, Galen. I didn't even think about that. That's to be expected on this show. Forget about all that. I just kind of liked that I stopped for a second. I was like, whoa, what is Sheeta doing? What is going on with Sheeta?
All right, hey, hang on, Vlad. Before I get a response from Robert, I gotta take a break and cut the tape. Give me 1 sec.
Oh yeah.
All right. We're back. Robert, sorry I had to cut off that last segment abruptly, but if you had anything to add to the Britt Baker segment, otherwise we'll move on.
Let's move on.
Yeah. All right. Let's get your thoughts on the House of Black. So there was a pre-tape vignette where I guess they get to make up their own rules now for their title defenses. 20-second countout, no rope breaks, DQ is enforced, dealer's choice, which I don't understand what the hell that means. So, what do you guys think of this House of Black Trios title? Any thoughts? Let's go with Robert first.
I wasn't really paying attention to that video, so I don't I don't really have any thoughts on that. So
or the House of Black in general. Do you like this? Do you like how they're kind of spooky and they do these segments in the dark somewhere in some freaking room?
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I don't have a problem with it. I think I do like Malachi Black. I think he's pretty cool. As a group, they're okay.
How about the Trios title? We've never asked your opinion about that.
They have it right now, right?
Yeah. Do you think this is a title that should exist?
Well, I don't know if it should, but I don't really care for it.
That's what we're asking. Do you care for it? All right, Vlad, what did you think of this segment? Come on, lay it on us.
I mean, no, I mean, look, I don't know what to say. I couldn't really understand what they were like. It kind of reminded me of Bray Wyatt a little bit. Like they talk in riddles. I can't really figure out what they're going for, what they're saying when they're talking. I mean, it sounds a little spooky. It looks kind of interesting, but it really goes nowhere and says nothing. Yeah, I guess they made some new, like, their matches have rules. That's the only part I really got. Like, they made their own rules. Julia Hart kind of looks cool. I think she looks the best of all of them.
I was gonna say, me and you, we think the same, Vlad. Heck yeah, Julia. Julia
Hart looks cool, but other than that, I mean, it's the trios title. It's a meaningless title. It's more of the AEW's meaningless title, like the international title and the trios title. So whatever. Okay, let these guys be a group. But we all know that Malachi Black wants to go back and be with his wife in WWE. So he's just counting down until his contract expires. And he'll do whatever he has to do until that time comes so he can go back to the WWE.
Yeah, I thought this was weird. Like you guys, I also didn't really understand what the heck they were trying to say. Because I had to do this show, so I had to like pause it and like, write it down and stuff. But I think it's ridiculous. What the heck is going on with these rules for their own matches that they get to make up? I don't like that. Anyways, let's move on. So they had a battle royal for a shot at the trios title, which with a bunch of teams that are slapped together because there's not many trios teams. And in the end, the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass win. So it's going to be the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass versus the House of Black. I don't know if you guys are excited about this. But anyways.
Yeah, through the roof. I'm excited. Can't you see the excitement on my face? Jesus Christ. What happened to the Acclaimed? They were just the tag team champions, and now they're in the trios battle royal fighting for meaningless championships. Oh my God.
They were pretty hot. They had a lot of momentum not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
they cooled them off.
They cooled. Even their rap today was kind of not that good. All right, let's move on. So we got the title picture now. We got Renee's backstage with Sami Guevara, and MJF interrupts. So this was an interesting segment. Sami, he actually looked like he was going to end their friendship based on. He said he looked back on the show last week and he saw that there was a space in MJF's car, right? Which is kind of good that they filled that plot hole that people just don't go back and look at the shows sometimes. So, also the fact that I don't know if you saw this, Robert, but Ty Conti, his wife, gave him a good dressing down on Rampage. You said you don't usually watch Rampage, but there was a good segment where she really dressed him down, like, what the heck are you doing with MJF? You don't even like him. It was hilarious. You got to go back and look at that segment. But she was like a good wife in that segment. So I thought he was going to come to his senses and, basically end the friendship. But then MJF explained to him that he has back problems from carrying this company on his back, and he really needed to lie flat on the back seat. And he started crying. He pulled out the fake tears. It appeared fake. I don't know. I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but. So Sami falls for it all over again, and they go back to kissing and hugging because friends don't shake hands, they hug. Any thoughts on this whole thing and how this segment played out from you guys?
So,
I'll let Robert go.
Well, like I mentioned, I think earlier, I didn't actually watch last week's Dynamite either, so I think the reference that they were making to last week's episode, that just flew over my head. I had no idea what they were talking about. It was a weird segment. It was one of the few MJF segments where I was like, oh, what the heck?
You see, Vlad, even Robert doesn't like this. I mean, I think it makes Sami Guevara look pretty stupid, I gotta say. Yeah. It would have been good if he listened to Ty Conti and just kind of went off on his own after that. Then I would have been like, okay, fine, he's come to his senses. But him, going along with MJF, like apparently for real. It makes him look real dopey.
Sammy did mention in that segment that, or was it MJF? One of them said something about there's going to be a mashup there of their theme music. And I'm like, really? Are they really going to do it? I was kind of curious if that was actually going to go down. And,
yeah, the one night where they're going to be a team, they mashed up their music. We'll get to that later. But Vlad, do you have any thoughts on this whole angle or what? Do you want to say anything?
No, not really. I will say though, was it me or was there's just so many backstage segments on this show? Like every second there'd be somebody backstage. This was like the episode where there was, countless times they were going backstage for this, going backstage for that. It just became like too much at one point. I was like, dude, what is going on here? Why are they going backstage again? I don't know if you kept count. I'm sure you did, but with the notes you wrote, but they were backstage all the time. I don't have anything to say about this specific thing. I think I talked about it last week. It's not one of my favorite MJF angles and this whole thing with the pillars. I know what they're doing. They're trying to push the guys they think have the future in the company, but
it's pretty.
It's all kind of mid.
Yeah, it's mid. It's mid and silly. It's kind of silly. It's way too silly. Anyway, we got a continuation of the backstage stuff with the Blackpool Combat Club. This time it's Kenny Omega with Don Callus, and they're saying they're going to outsmart Moxley next week. And Omega says he knows how tough Moxley is, and he says it will all come to an end in the steel cage next week, which would be nice, but I severely doubt that. Right? Are you guys, any of you guys excited for this match? That's kind of a marquee matchup.
I'll watch it.
I think it could be an interesting match. The build up, I've been whatever, but I'll watch the match too. It'll be one of those that I don't forward through. Vlad, are you excited for Moxley and Omega to rekindle their rivalry?
I'm just gonna. Yeah, very excited. But I'm just gonna ask, who wants to bet if Moxley's gonna blade her down?
Oh, that's not even a bet, dude.
Who's willing to take that bet?
There. You won't win anything making that bet. Come on.
Okay, how about this? The bet will be if we can catch him with the blade in his teeth or on the floor.
Now that's more interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, at this point, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that should be a good match. All right, let's move on. We got Wardlow against a jobber. It's a squash. Wardlow calls out Luchasaurus, challenges him for the title. He says you can have a TNT title match. But Christian comes out and says, actually, he's the one who wants the title match. And I was like, yes. Fuck yes. I was so scared that it was going to be Luchasaurus versus Wardlow. I love Christian. This is going to be dope.
I agree. Well, I didn't like the squash match with Wardlow, but the Christian's announcement that he's the one that wants to challenge for the title.
Very slowly milked. This is 3 weeks in the making, where Christian would just come out and not say anything. But in the end, I'm happy with this. Vlad?
It's better than Wardlow versus Thor. So, yes,
right.
Fine. Let's do it. I agree.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give you guys the option to skip the segment at Mark Briscoe's ranch. Do you think does that work? Yes. Vlad, skip.
What? I laughed. I thought it was funny. I laughed a couple times. I laughed. I don't know.
All right, fine.
I mean, compared to the rest of the show, I thought it was.
If Vlad laughed, let's go through it. All right, so Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett and the crew show up at Mark Briscoe's house, and they want to make up for all the animosity that they've been having these past few weeks. If you guys have been keeping up, most of it's been on Rampage, so they end up helping out at the farm, and. Jeff Jarrett was going to play guitar, which I've never seen him actually play guitar, but he got cut off by Mark Briscoe's dad. And in the end, I guess Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett want tips for beating FTR from Mark Briscoe. That's what this whole thing was all about. I mean, it was a silly segment. It was funny to see them working on the ranch with Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe's facial expressions. He's a good actor. So I think they could do more with him. I love Jeff Jarrett too. I don't know if Robert knows. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. Of all times. But I don't know. This they could do a little better with him, I think. But okay. Vlad got a kick out of the segment.
I just laughed when the dad, whatever they call him, Papa Briscoe, was like, "You got to watch out for those two Indian guys," and he was like, "Well," he was like, "You got to watch out for the Indian with the overalls," and then Mark was like, "Well, which one?" He's like, and then dad was, "Well, both of them." You got to watch out for both. I don't know. It was silly. Obviously, it's not that funny, but to me, I laughed, and that was enough. That was enough for me to say, "Hey," to get something out of it.
It's nice to see the Briscoes. All right, well, look, I'm also going to give you guys the option to skip this, but I don't know if Robert's going to be cool with it because this is his boys. Bullet Club Gold version. Juice Robinson versus Ricky Starks. You guys had any thoughts on this? I mean, Starks wins clean.
No.
I don't...
This is up to Robert. I have no opinion one way or another.
It wasn't great, so yeah.
Well, Jay White versus Ricky Starks could be a good match. I think that could be an interesting matchup.
It can be.
All right, so also we can skip this, although this is kind of one of my favorite angles. But the Firm is feuding with the Hardys and their friends, and
I totally forgot about it. But okay.
Wait, was there a segment?
They just reviewed it. They did a review where they went through the whole storyline, and they're gonna have a match at Matt Hardy's house. I like the segment they had on Rampage. I'll give a shout out to that. I know Robert doesn't watch Rampage, but there was a really funny segment with the Firm and Matt Hardy. I might text it to you later on, but anybody listening, you guys should go back and watch that segment because it was freaking funny. But let me see how much time we got left. Let me cut the tape one last time so we could talk about the main event without worrying about the tape finishing. So one last cut right here. Alright, we're back on to finish the show. We got the main event and review. We're going to give the show a grade. So backstage, MJF makes one last ditch effort to get out of this four-way match by trying to lure Jungle Boy to be his right-hand man. And of course, Jungle Boy refuses. So we go on to the main event. This was good. This was a nice match. This was the best worked match of the night, I thought. I'll give a shout out to MJF and Darby. They had this incredible counter spot. I don't know if you guys remember it, but I don't even know how to describe it. But MJF had a moment where he looked like he was going to do a dive with Sami, and he didn't do it. Instead, he just let Sami do it on his own, and he said, "My leg hurts," which was smart because those dives, never lead to the end of a match. But the drama finally came at the end when they were both arguing over who was going to get the pin on Jungle Boy, and then finally MJF slapped Sami. Sami retaliated, which led to a combination of moves where Sami ended up taking the pin. And after the match, MJF was so livid, he started yelling at the crowd and some kid in the audience. I don't know if you guys caught that, but it was pretty hilarious. So there you have it. After everything that we've been through, we finally learned that it's going to be a Pillars Fatal 4-Way. So I'll give the floor to, let's give it to Robert first, I guess. What do you think, how do you think that match will end, first of all?
You mean the upcoming pay-per-view or the Dynamite one that just happened?
Well, do you want to talk about that Dynamite match?
I liked it. So, this was probably the only match that I liked in the show. Thought it was well done. Good storytelling. I love how when MJF got choked by his own scarf. Like I love the way he sold it. I thought that was pretty hilarious. Overall that was really good, and I think this was the first time that I saw all four of the Pillars in the ring in action in the ring. Not doing promo work. So that's pretty cool to see, and it's very evident that all four of them are really talented. So I'm not typically a fan of Fatal 4-Ways, but I am kind of intrigued by this. So I'll be looking forward to that pay-per-view.
All right, well, that's good analysis, Robert. What about you, Vlad? What did you think of this match? I already told you that I liked it.
Yeah, it was pretty solid for a TV match. It was solid. It was good. There was some decent work. But by this point in the show, I was already, nearing the home stretch. So, when a show's been bad, you don't have the same enjoyment as you would if you've enjoyed a show and you're watching. Even if you're watching something pretty solid or good, my opinion might be. I'm just that way. I don't know. Maybe I'm different. Like when I watched an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes of crap, I don't really get the same excitement even if something is good. So I thought it was solid work. It was decent. Like I said, this is not my favorite MJF angle. So, but all in all, yeah, I don't, probably was the best thing as far as in-ring work of the night. But that's not saying a lot either, though, because compared to what.
All right, well, let's go back to Robert before we give our grades for the show. Let's make a prediction. How do you think the match will end for the Pillars Fatal 4-Way? And how do you think it should end? So 2 questions. How do you think it will end, and how do you think it should end?
I think my answer to both of them actually be the same. So I think MJF will retain. I don't know, maybe Darby might win, but I don't know. Out of the other 3 pillars, I think that none of the 3 pillars are really. I wouldn't consider them ready to be the champ. Maybe Darby is the closest one to it out of the other 3, but I do think MJF will still be champion at the end.
All right, Vlad, prediction.
Yeah, I have to second that. I mean, MJF is going to retain somehow. I don't know if he's going to have to cheat his way to victory or something's going to happen. I mean, or just there'll be a lot of chaos with 4 guys in the ring at once, and somehow he'll just get the pin at the end somehow. I'm sure it'll be as good as they can get it to be, but like 4-way is it's not my thing. There's just 2, whatever. But yeah, and should he win? Yeah, of course he should continue to win. He's the one bright spot in the company. Of course, he should be the champion, but. Yeah, I mean, I know maybe you think it's time to make Darby. I don't think it's time. I don't think he's ready for that just yet.
You took the words right out of my mouth, baby. I think Darby should win. I know they're going to give it to MJF, but I think it's Darby's time. I think Darby's time is now before he kills himself, because when he fucks himself up, then everyone's going to be saying, like, oh, man, too bad he didn't get a run with the title. Well, unless they have CM Punk waiting in the wings to face MJF at Wembley Stadium, I would say let Darby win, and then you could have a rematch at Wembley Stadium. MJF versus Darby. That's how I would do it. But that's not knowing what's going on with CM Punk. So, all right. I know you guys all groaned that when we had to start this Dynamite review today. So let's give your final grade. Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go first. That's fine. This was bad. I guess I'll give it a. I don't know. I'll give it a D+. I'll give it a D+. This was bad. This was a bad show, guys. This was not good.
All right, Robert.
B- maybe. I would have given it a D if it wasn't for that last match. Like last match, kind of put it over the edge, over the D at least. So
yeah, I'm more on Robert's side. I'm gonna give it a C-. I was thinking D+ too, just because there was really nothing much else on this show until the end. But I don't know, the angle, the Pillars Fatal 4-Way angle, the whole thing they did with Sami and MJF kind of made it suffer a little bit. I think the whole thing could have been better if they just played it straight. That's my opinion. But I think they could have landed at a Fatal 4-Way another way other than having MJF and Sami have that ridiculous agreement for money and all that. So, all right, I'm going to go C-. Well, that'll conclude our AEW Dynamite review. I guess we did it. This show probably maybe wasn't worth reviewing all in detail like that, but for posterity and historical purposes, we'll just leave this online. Maybe someone in the future will look back and they'll want to know what people actually thought of these shows. But, hey, Robert, did you drink tonight? Were you at the bar for the Laker game?
No. When you saw me last time, that was my first time there in more than a week. So I don't go as frequently. Oh, at least like not from Sunday to Thursday nights, not as often, just because my schedule right now is kind of hectic.
So you just watched it at home?
Yeah, the Lakers got blown out.
You still think they're gonna take this series, Vlad, or what? After that humiliation. Yeah, they'll be fine. Look at you, suddenly like all confident in the Lakers after all those months of,
Well,
woe is me. The Lakers aren't going to make the playoffs. Oh my God, they're not even going to make the top 10. Now you're confident they're going to beat the Warriors.
Well, I'm not guaranteed that they're going to win, but I think they did what they had to do. They took one in Golden State. Now they have to just protect home court. I mean, yeah, I would have loved for them to actually play today, but they didn't. So they pretty much, I don't know. They looked like they were satisfied taking game one, and they left it at that. They didn't really have any type of game today whatsoever on either side of the floor, offense or defense. I don't know what they were doing.
I didn't see any of it. I was preparing. Yeah. I was preparing for this important show that we do.
Well, good. I like your devotion, Karen. I like your devotion.
Robert, do you think the Lakers are still going to win?
After what I saw in Game 2, I don't know. I'm not willing to bet on it. That's what I'll say. I'll say that much.
No, yeah, of course, it's not. It's
the defending champions they're playing against, Vlad.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? The Warriors are the defending champions. They're not like they're playing some scrub.
Yeah.
No, and I don't mean it like that. They're not playing a scrub. I just feel like the Lakers are going to win the series, but not because the Warriors are some scrub. I just think the matchup-wise, the Lakers have some advantage. They are going to take advantage of, especially in the games in LA, especially inside. But we'll see. Obviously the Warriors are a great shooting team. They can get hot, and that could turn the series, or they could steal a game themselves just with their shooting. So it could go either way. I'm not saying it's locked in, but I just feel like the Lakers are going to win the series in the end. But we'll see. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, so we'll see.
I was wrong that I thought in the Suns versus the Denver Nuggets series, I thought the Suns were gonna win in 5. Obviously, that's not gonna happen.
Wait, what's the score there now? Is it 2? It's 2-0?
I think right now Denver
2-0. Yeah.
2-0.
Oh, 2-0.
Yeah,
well, it's
2-0.
not quite over
2-0.
yet. Not quite.
No,
over.
not over yet.
But I thought the Suns were gonna win the series in 5.
Oh, 4-1. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Well, that's okay. If you're not exactly right, Robert, that's fine. But I don't think the Suns are gonna win at all. I think Denver's gonna win that series for sure. I thought that's
pretty sure.
I was pretty sure since the beginning, and I think Denver will beat either Golden State or the Lakers. I think they're gonna win the championship.
I think they're going to make the finals, win the championship. Maybe. Hey, maybe. I mean, they look like a championship team right now to me.
That's my pick. So my pick.
I'll be happy. My brother lives in Colorado, so I'll be happy with Denver winning the championship.
I think if the Lakers don't win, I think Denver would be my second choice to win as well. Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. Listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on my humble podcast. This was fun. I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate your time and effort to stay up, but I know you got to get to bed and go to work tomorrow. But I'll see you guys. Hopefully we'll hang out sometime soon and watch some of these games.
All right. Take care.
All right. Good night, Robert.
Take care, Robert. Yeah, take care, Robert.
Bye.